My name's Patty Kennedy and I'm interviewing Dr. Martina Carrera this afternoon about some work she's doing in her classroom to make her thinking, or the thinking of her students, visible. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Martina.
Thanks for having me.
That's okay. Well, we'd like to tell me about what you have been doing in the classroom that has made you think differently about the work you're doing with students.
I always experiment, and particularly being new to a space and new to an environment, I think part of the journey of working with kids is also getting to know the potential of a space. And with our drama studio, the beautiful black box, just one lesson decided consciously to use chalk on the floor. I had this idea that the logbook would become the space, and that rather than go anywhere near an exercise book or a pen, that I would kind of trick them into it. So I actually got them to draw an outline of each other on the floor, which they loved. They didn't need a why. They didn't need a reason to do that.
On the floor.
I'm like, okay, and then some, that's also using suspense. Participating, having no idea why, because they realise that the understanding comes from the action or the connections with others. So lie on the floor.
Deal with the bell. That's a bell, because we're in a school situation, and it's really important to understand that the day moves on, even though the good ideas and the thinking keeps happening.
And we work around it and we ignore it. So they lie on the floor, and it was a group of 5, and so we kind of just took it in turns and drew around each other, and then they had to feel. By that time, they're quite physically engaged with the activity. What you're thinking about, what you know about. So they scribbled lots of stuff inside their outlines of their bodies, which for me was symbolic of their knowledge within. And then I asked them to connect, to physically walk around the other bodies and look what was inside other people's, what other people thought was their understanding, and then to draw lines.
What were the lines representing?
So if they found similarities,
right,
they were allowed to physically draw a line from their body outline to another body, after they giggled at the size of the bodies and the weird positions. I had no idea, because I was thinking they just do the standard kind of outline, but some of them did really weird shapes. Kinesthetically right, almost, that they actually, as a group, they're thinking, because they could make it big rather than locked in a tiny paragraph in a little exercise book, they got to claim their idea by writing it on the floor. I didn't really realise until we talked about it afterwards that what was also interesting was how they moved physically around each other's idea. Because I started to see people really carefully stepping over words that were written on, or ideas that were offered on the floor, almost as if showing respect for the other person's offer.
I noticed you talked about the fact that it was a small class, so that gave you the possibility. How would that work if you had, 20 kids in the class? How would that complicate the idea, or would it add to it or make it harder?
Well, as I got my Year 11s, we did the theatre stage, so I think the bigger space, which was quite powerful, because the thing that worked better when the Year 11s brainstormed their production company on the stage where they're going to perform was that I often find them now in rehearsal referring to the space where that word was written.
Right. So is that a real connection to the way they're thinking, or the fact that they're kinesthetic thinkers? Or
I think that's a really good question. I don't know. I guess I would like to ask them. And as this strategy, which kind of, initially, and then the phone goes.
Business of knowledge.
I guess the idea at first was to create suspense and engagement, no matter what the task was, and then it turned into this realisation that it was a way of writing in drama in a very different way, of documenting and collaborating through writing in a different way. Then we've trialled it for a number of purposes. I'd really probably like to unpack with the boys themselves what they actually get out of it. As soon as I said to grade 12 for their GP, they were at a point where they're starting to need to make some concrete decisions. I said, do you want to write it on the floor? Yeah. And they want the chalk, they want it, and they appreciate the fact that then they've got to wash it later.
Do you think the washing of the floor is still part of that process?
I definitely do. It's I remember the Tibetan monks sand mandalas, and that part of the beauty is that it's not concrete. It can change, and that we wash the stage ideas because our thinking changes.
Thank you so much for sharing part of your process with us today. I'd like to thank Martina for sharing that, and hopefully we'll meet her again talking about some other work she's doing.